Hello students, today we will discuss another topic of chapter number 2, that is capacitance. So let's start it. But before we begin with capacitor, we should discuss this topic, that is electrostatic shielding. In our last video, I have discussed with you people the behavior of conductor in an external electric field. And first behavior of a conductor was that inside the conductor electric field is zero. And we've also discussed that if a charge is given to a conductor, the whole charge will get distributed, or the whole charge will reside on its surface. No charge will be there inside that conductor. So Q is equals to 0, E is equals to 0 inside the conductor. We've already discussed. And if suppose hollow conductor is there, and if a charge is given to this hollow conductor, again the same thing will happen. The whole charge will get distributed on its surface. No charge will be there inside this hollow conductor. And if suppose a cavity we have considered, so this cavity will be shielded from the electrical influence which is present in the atmosphere, or which is present in the surrounding or on the conductor. So no electric field is there inside the cavity of a hollow conductor. So the thing is that if we want to make a region free from any electric field, we always talk about electrostatic shielding. The phenomena of making a region free from electric field is only known as what? Electrostatic shielding. So suppose a region is there, and if I want to make this region free from an external electric field, I will enclose it within a conductor, within a hollow conductor. So if a hollow conductor is there, this cavity will be shielded from an external electrical influence, and this is only known as what? Electrostatic shielding. So if we talk about this ball B, or if we talk about this cavity, they don't have any electric field. Electric field is zero over here. Okay, so it is based on the fact that the electric field vanishes inside the cavity of a hollow conductor. Here a device is there B, and we want to prevent this device from an external electric field. So what we are doing, we are just enclosing this device B within a metallic screen A. So A is what? A metallic screen, and B is what? That device which we want to prevent from electric field. So whatever electric field will be there around this device will be safe from that electric field, because now it is under a metallic screen. So the whole charge will be on the metallic screen, and if you connect this metallic screen with the ground, what will happen? This charge will get neutralized, because electrons are there inside the earth. We know this thing. So this is how what we are doing. We are preventing this device B from an external electric field, and this is known as what? Electrostatic shielding. So that's why it is written over here. It is the best way to protect some area in vacuum from the influence of external electric field. Now here again they have given us three conductors. Three conductors are there, but they are of different shapes. This one is having spherical shape, this one is having square shape, this one is pear shaped. So but all these three are what? Conductors. So if we talk about their charge distribution, as they are having different shapes, the charge distribution over these conductors will be different. As it is a sphere, it will have uniform charge distribution, we can clearly see. But if we talk about this conductor and this conductor, okay, if you will see these areas, these pointed areas, or if I will use the word vertex, you can see that more charges are there at these pointed ends. Why is it so? We have already discussed about charge density. At these pointed ends, area is less, and if area is less, charge will be more, charge density will be more. So that's why these pointed ends, these vertex, they have more charges. If we talk about this particular pear shaped conductor, it is having, this part is having more charge, this part is having less charge. Again the same reason we will give. This part is having less area. If it is having less area, it will have more charge density. This part is having more area. So if it is having more area, there will be less charge density. So that's why the distribution of charge is like this when it comes to conductors of different shapes. But one thing is common in these three conductors, and what is that thing common? Being conductors in nature, the electric field inside them will be zero, whatever is their shape. Okay, so that's what is written over here, that electric charge distribute itself on the surface of all conductors in such a way that the electric field inside the conductor is zero. So that is the common thing between all these three, because they all are conductors, though they have different shapes, though the charge distribution on their surface will be different, but inside them electric field will be zero. Okay, one application of electrostatic shielding we have already discussed, that how we can prevent a device from an external electric field, how we can prevent it. Now one more thing is there, like if lightning is there and if you are in this car, if you are stuck in this car, so it's better to be inside this car than to walk out and to try to protect yourself under a tree. Why? Because if you are inside this car is having metallic body. Metallic body means what? This car is a conductor. So if through lightning, if charges flows on this conductor, on the body of this car, so being conductor, what will happen? The charges will repel each other and they will spread all over the body of this car, all over this metallic surface. And if additional spark if additional spark will be there, so what will happen? The discharge of charges will takes place to the ground. But inside the car, there will be no charge, there will be no electric field, because we have already discussed that inside a conductor electric field is zero. So whoever is the occupant inside the car, he or she will be completely safe. So this is another application of electrostatic shielding, and I think electrostatic shielding is clear to everyone. Now our next topic is electrical capacitance. The measure of the ability of a conductor to store charges is known as what? Its capacitance or capacity. How much charge a conductor can hold? The measure of its ability to hold charge is known as what? Its capacitance or its capacity. Now we know this thing, if a charge is given to that conductor, a conductor we have considered, and if we are giving more charges to it, so what will happen? Its potential will also increase. If we increase the amount of charge given by us to that conductor, more potential that particular conductor will have. What we can say that Q is directly proportional to V. What is Q? Charge given to that conductor, and V is the potential of that conductor. So that's what is written over here. Q is directly proportional to V. And if we remove this proportionality sign, we will have a constant, that is C. And this constant C is only known as what? Capacitance. And if we want to write it in terms of capacitance, it will be C is equals to Q upon V. Now, if we want to define this C, what we are doing, let us consider that V is equals to 1 volt. So if V is equals to 1 volt, then C will be equals to Q. So how we can define it? We can say that capacitance of a conductor is defined as the charge required to raise its potential through 1 unit or through 1 volt. So just to define capacitance, we have considered that V is equals to 1 volt, and how we have defined it, that it is defined as the charge required to raise its potential by 1 volt. So that is known as what? Capacitance. Now if we talk about the SI unit of capacitance, it is farad, and it is represented by capital F. And if we talk about its symbol, we use a symbol to represent capacitance or capacitor. So it is like this, two parallel lines having some gap between them. Now if we want to define 1 farad, how we can define it? So we have this equation, we have this expression, C is equals to Q upon V. So if we want to define 1 farad, which is the SI unit of capacitance, then then for charge we will talk about 1 coulomb, and then for V we will talk about 1 volt. So how we can define it? Capacitance is said to be 1 farad when 1 coulomb of charge raises the potential of conductor by 1 volt. So when 1 coulomb of charge raises the potential of a conductor by 1 volt, the capacitance of that conductor is known as what? 1 farad. I hope this is clear. Now the thing is that this farad is a very big unit. So we use smaller units, and these smaller units are millifarad, that is 10 to the power minus 3 farad, microfarad, that is 10 to the power minus 6 farad, then we have nanofarad, that is 10 to the power minus 9 farad, and then we have picofarad, that is 10 to the power minus 12 farad. So these are the smaller units of capacitance that we use because 1 farad is a very big unit. Okay, now this capacitance, it depends upon many factors. One factor is that size and shape of the conductor. Second is nature of the surrounding medium. And the third one is presence of the other conductors in its neighborhood. Next we have capacitance of an isolated spherical conductor. A spherical conductor is there and we just want to calculate capacitance of that spherical conductor. Okay. So a sphere is there, which you can clearly see on screen. It has center O. R is the radius of this sphere. And plus Q is the charge given to this sphere. So charge Q is given to the sphere, which is assumed to be concentrated at the center. Actually, we know this thing, whenever charge is given to a conductor, the whole charge will spread on its surface. But we have also discussed this thing, that the charge which is spread on the surface behaves as if the whole charge is concentrated at its center. So that's why plus Q is shown at the center. Now we want to calculate that what is the potential at this point which is on the surface due to this charge. So we know its formula, V is equals to Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught R. We have already derived it. Now we know this thing, C is equals to Q upon V. When we will substitute this in place of V, Q and Q will get cancelled, and finally what we will have, C is equals to 4 pi epsilon naught R. Now we know this thing, 4 pi epsilon naught is constant. We can say that C is directly proportional to R. As you will increase the radius of this sphere, capacitance will also increase. And you can also see one more thing, that Q is nowhere over here. It means what, capacitance does not depend upon the charge. Instead, capacitance depends upon the shape and size of the conductor. So that's what is written over here. Capacitance of a spherical conductor is directly proportional to its radius. It is independent of the charge. And the above equation is true for conducting spheres, hollow or solid. Whether it is hollow or whether it is a solid sphere, it is valid for both. Okay, and if the sphere is in a medium, that medium will have some permittivity. So that's why in addition with epsilon naught, epsilon R will also be there. And we know this thing, what is epsilon R? Relative permittivity of that medium. Capacitance of the earth is 711 microfarad. Actually, we can easily calculate capacitance of the earth. We have this formula. We know this thing, earth is spherical in shape. We know the value of 4 pi epsilon naught, or 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. It is 9 into 10 to the power 9. R, we also know for the earth, that what is the radius of the earth? It is 6400 kilometer. So when we will put all these values in this expression, we can easily calculate earth's capacitance, and it will be equals to 711 microfarad. So I think this is clear. Now next we have what? Principle of a capacitor, or principle of capacitance. Actually, if we talk about a single conductor, an isolated conductor, the capacitance of an isolated conductor is very, very small. Actually, suppose a conductor is there. Okay. And if a very high charge is given to that conductor, so it will have what? High potential. And then in that case, what will happen? Electric field will also become very high. Now the atoms or the molecules in the surrounding air will get ionized. Like suppose, let me draw it, then it will be more clear to you people. Like suppose a conductor is there, and we have given charge to this conductor. Okay, and the charge will be all over like this. Okay. Now we are increasing the charge, the potential is also increasing, many things are there. So the electric field around this conductor will become very high. And now we know this thing, this conductor is surrounded by air, it has molecules, it has atoms. So now what will happen? Because of the strong electric field, the molecules of the surrounding air will get ionized. And as they get ionized, what will happen? They will start neutralizing the charge on this conductor. So considerably what will happen? The capacitance of this conductor will decrease. So it puts the limit on the capacitance of the conductor. And moreover, if we want to have a single conductor of large capacitance, we have to, it will have what? A very inconvenient large size. We have already seen C is equals to 4 pi epsilon naught R. C is directly proportional to R. So to have a capacitance To have a high value of capacitance, you need to increase the R, but we cannot go beyond the limit. So the size will become inconvenient. So that's why a single conductor will have what? Low capacitance. So that's why we always talk about, whenever we talk about capacitor, we always talk about two conductors. Okay, so let's discuss that only, that what is the principle of a capacitor. Okay, let me remove all these things. Okay. So here what we are talking about the principle of a capacitor. So in this diagram you can clearly see that two plates are there, or two conductors are there. This is conductor A, which is charged, and another conductor is there which is neutral. Okay, and there is a potential what? V. Now we know this thing that when B is brought near A, charges will get induced. Okay, on the inner side of the B there will be negative charge, on the outer side there will be positive charge because of induction. Now one more thing is there, this negative charge, it will try to decrease its potential, and this positive charge will try to increase its potential because being positive. Now the thing is that this negative charge wants to, it will decrease the potential, this will increase the potential, but who will have the more impact? This negative charge. Why? Because it is more closer to A. Okay, so as it is more closer to A, what will happen? The potential of this conductor A will decrease, and if the potential of this conductor A will decrease, capacitance will increase. It means more charge could be given to this conductor. So what we have seen right now, that as we have brought an uncharged conductor closer to it, because of induction, considerably what will happen? The potential will decrease, and if the potential will decrease, capacitance of that conductor will increase. Okay, so this is how the capacitance is increasing as we brought an uncharged conductor towards a charged conductor. Now one more thing will be there. Please concentrate. Okay. Now suppose the farther side is earth. So what will happen? The positive charge on this plate will get neutralized, and now what is left? Only this negative charge is left on this plate B. So the one which was increasing the potential is vanished. Positive charge is not at all there. Only negative charge is there which was decreasing the potential, and now if it is alone, it will have more impact. It means more the potential will decrease, and if more potential will decrease, it means what? More the conductor will have its capacitance. The capacitance of this conductor A will increase. It means what? It can hold more charge. So as the V is decreasing, C is increasing. So to increase the potential to the same value, an additional amount of charge can be given to plate A. So basically what is happening, that what we want to discuss, that how the capacitance of a conductor is increasing. So what we can say, that the capacitance of a conductor is considerably increased when we place an earth connected conductor near it. And such a system of two conductors is only known as what? Capacitor. So this means the capacity of storing charges on A increases. The system so formed is called what? Capacitor. So what is the definition of a capacitor? It is an arrangement of two conductors separated by an insulating medium, and that is used to store electric charge and electrical energy. So this is known as what? Capacitor, which is always a pair of two conductors separated by some medium, and which is used to store what? Electrical energy. And I think this is clear. Okay, so now we will talk about capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. So first of all, let us define it, that what is parallel plate capacitor. A parallel plate capacitor is an arrangement of two parallel conducting plates of equal area separated by air medium or any other insulating medium such as paper, mica, glass, wood, ceramic, etc. So we will talk about two parallel plates. They are having same area. Like in this diagram you can clearly see. This is one plate whose surface charge density is sigma and it is positively charged. it is another plate whose surface charge density is again sigma. So surface charge density is same for both the plates. This one is positively charged and this one is what, negatively charged, which we have already seen when we have discussed about the principle of capacitor. They both have same area A. They are separated by d distance. And this will be the electric field between these plates. Its direction will be from this plate to this plate, because this is positively charged and this will be negatively charged. Now the thing is that, but before that, in the application of Gauss law, we have already discussed that what will be the net electric field in this part and in this part, and it will be 0 because they will cancel each other. So E is equals to 0 onto left hand side and E is equals to 0 on the right hand side, and in between these two plates, what will be E? E will be sigma upon epsilon naught, which we have already proved. So the electric field between these two plates is how much? Sigma upon epsilon naught. Okay, now if we talk about V, what is potential? We know this formula, V is equals to E into D. In place of E, what we will write? Sigma upon epsilon naught D. Or we can say that sigma could be replaced by Q upon A, because we know this thing. What is sigma? Sigma is surface charge density, which is Q upon A. So in place of the sigma, it is replaced by Q upon A. So finally what we have? V is equals to QD upon A epsilon naught. But C is equals to Q upon V, because we have actually the topic is to calculate the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. So we have to talk about this expression. C is equals to Q upon V. So in place of V, we can substitute this. So finally what we will have? C is equals to epsilon naught A upon D, or A epsilon naught upon D, because Q and Q will get cancelled. So C is equals to epsilon naught A upon D. And if the space between the plate is filled with a dielectric medium of relative permittivity epsilon R. So in addition with epsilon naught, we will have epsilon naught R also. Epsilon R also. So what we can write? C is equals to A epsilon naught epsilon R upon D. So this is the capacitance for a parallel plate capacitor. Please remember this formula. This is very, very important, that C is equals to epsilon naught A upon D. So we can say that according to this expression, that the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor, it is directly proportional to area. If you will increase the area of these two plates, capacitance will also increase, and it is inversely proportional to D. If you will increase the distance between them, capacitance will decrease. And if you decrease the distance between them, if you will bring them more closer to each other, what will happen? Capacitance will increase. So it is directly proportional to area of the plates, and it is inversely proportional to the distance of separation between them. So I think this is clear to everyone, that how we can derive the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. Now we will talk about the combination of capacitors. There are two combinations of capacitors. One is series combination and the other one is what? Parallel combination. Okay, so first we will talk about series combination of capacitors. This is capacitor 1, capacitor 2, capacitor 3, and they are connected to this battery whose potential is how much V. A charge is given to this capacitor. So what will happen? This plate will have positive charge, this plate will have negative charge. Now in series combination, negatively charged plate of C1 is connected to positively charged plate of C2, and negatively charged plate of C2 is connected to positively charged plate of C3. So this is how they combine with each other, and this is known as what? Series combination of capacitors. Okay. Now in series combination, charge is same in each capacitor. They all will have same charge. What will vary? Potential will vary. So suppose V1 is the potential of capacitor 1, V2 is the potential of capacitor 2, V3 is the potential of capacitor 3, and they all will have same charge. So that's why Q is written everywhere. What we can say that if V1, V2, V3 are the potential of these capacitors, so what will be the total potential? It will be the sum of these three. So that's how it is written over here. V is equals to V1 plus V2 plus V3. Now we know this thing, that what is V? V is equals to Q by C. So accordingly, we can write the same thing for V1. So V1 will be Q upon C1 because Q is same for each capacitor. What will be V2? Q upon C2. What will be V3? Q upon C3. Now in this equation, in place of V, we will write Q by C. In place of V1, Q by C1. In place of V2, Q by C2. In place of V3, Q by C3. So that only is written. Now Q is common. Q will get cancelled. And here one more thing is there. What is C? C will be the equivalent capacitance or the effective capacitance or the net capacitance or the total capacitance of this combination. Okay, C1, C2, C3, they are the individual capacitance of each capacitor. Okay, but C is the total capacitance of the series combination. So this, after cancelling out Q from both the sides, finally what we will have? 1 upon C is equals to 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus 1 upon C3. Or in general, for n number of capacitors, we can write the same thing in this way. 1 upon C is equals to summation I is equals to 1 to n, 1 upon Ci. So the reciprocal of the effective capacitance is the sum of the reciprocals of the individual capacitance. So the reciprocal of the effective capacitance will be equal to the reciprocal of the individual capacitance. So we can see that as we are talking about the reciprocal, it means what? The effective capacitance in series combination is always less than the least of all the individual capacitance. It means what? The value of the net capacitance will be smaller than the one which is having the least capacitance. Are you getting me or not? Because here we are getting the reciprocal. As here we are talking about the reciprocal. So that's why. So this was all about series combination of capacitors. Next we have parallel combination of capacitors. So this is another kind of combination. So let's discuss it. This is one capacitor C1. This one is another C2. This one is another C3. And how they are combined with each other? At a common point. So the positive plates, all the positive plates are connected to one common point. All the negative plates are connected to one common point. So this type of combination is known as what? Parallel combination of capacitors. And all these three are connected to a battery whose potential is V. So in parallel combination, potential will be same across each capacitor because they all are connected to a common point. So potential will be same, V, V, V all over. But charge distribution will be different. It will have another charge, it will have different charge, it will have another different charge. So we can say that Q1, Q2, Q3. And we can say that what will be the total charge? It will be Q is equals to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. But we know this thing. What is Q? Q is CV. Okay. So what will be Q1? Q1 will be C1V because V will be same for all. They will have equal potential. Only charge will vary now. So Q1 could be written as C1V. Q2 will be C2V. Q3 will be C3V. And Q will be CV, where C is again what? The effective capacitance of this combination, parallel combination. Okay. So in place of Q, CV is written. In place of Q1, C1V is written. In place of Q2, C2V. And in place of Q3, C3V. Now here we can easily see that V will cancel out. So finally what we will have? C is equals to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So the effective capacitance for a parallel combination will be the sum of all the individual capacitance. Or if there are n number of capacitors, the same thing could be written in this way. We'll use summation. So C will be equals to I is equals to 1 to n Ci. So the effective capacitance is the sum of all the individual capacitances. And finally, as we are getting C is equals to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So what we can say that the effective capacitance in parallel combination is larger than the largest of all the individual capacitances. What does it mean? That the total capacitance will be greater than that particular capacitance which has the highest value. So I think this is also clear. So this was all about the combination of capacitors, that is series combination and parallel combination. In series combination, the effective capacitance will decrease. In parallel combination, the effective capacitance will increase.